I had a really great conversation with Rachel Feldman on the Healthy Hustle podcast. And what we talked about is really going to help you leverage storytelling to build deeper connections with your audience and turn your expertise into consistent revenue. Who doesn't want that? So I'm going to share that conversation with you today.
Hey guys, I'm so excited. I'm actually having Kris Jones back on the podcast. She had such a compelling episode before. We'll definitely put that in the show notes. But I wanted you to hear why story is so important to set yourself apart and to really be able to have your ideal client view you as this unique personality showing up and stand out from the crowd. So, Kris, can you tell everyone a little about you before we dive into this conversation?
Yes, I'd love to. My name is Kris, as you know, and I am passionate about story. I work with tons of coaches and really help them understand on a deep level how powerful their work is.
Right.
You're great at what you do. Now, really, the ticket to more clients is really communicating that in an authentic way, in a way that feels really aligned with you, and in a way that really truly connects with your ideal clients. And once you do that, I think a lot of coaches understand the power of story, but it can be a bit mysterious. Like, what is it? Do I have a story? Is it
Yeah.
compelling? How
I
do
hear
I?
that a lot. And I love
Yeah,
that you just said that. I hear like, I don't have a story. And then you ask
yes,
them like five high value questions, and all of a sudden unfolds this like many stories, these micro
yes,
stories within a bigger story. And I'm always
yes.
saying to that coach, you have such a compelling story.
I have yet to meet anybody who doesn't.
Yeah.
Everybody has a compelling story, period. But the challenge is, as coaches, we're just so close to our own business, and we're also so close to our own brilliance and our own genius that we can't really articulate it that well. We kind
Right.
of, the things that we think are just normal or given really aren't. And so often I liken this to being kind of trapped inside of a bottle, trying to read the label that you can only read from outside the bottle.
Right.
And as business owners, we're all there. Like it's true for everybody. And a lot of the coaches that I work with think like, oh, if I just work harder at this story or keep working at it, I'll have a breakthrough. And yes, writing is a huge component of this, but it's less of a writing problem and more of a perspective problem. What you need is somebody to come in and with perspective, look at the brilliance of your bottle label
Yes.
and read it
Yes.
for you and really read it for you. And then you have this awareness of how important the work you do is. And the byproduct that my clients experience time and time and time again is really this deep knowing internally on a cellular level, like the power of the work that you do. And what happens is more confidence. So you have your story, you have the right words, you know the story that's going to really resonate with your clients, and then you get to you reuse that story in every area of your marketing. I'm a big believer in let's do less but more effective.
Yeah.
And I believe all any business owner really needs is one really powerful story. And you can use that on your website, you can use it on your social media, you can use that same story. And I show my clients how to do this. You use that same story on your sales calls.
Yeah.
Every coach I work with dreads sales calls
How do
because,
you, before
yeah,
we even go on, I just want to piggyback to even
yeah,
some fundamental basics because I
yeah.
feel like somebody's saying they're like, I do have a story, but it's not getting them clients. So how do you find what story is going to be appealing to your clients? How do you discover that within all the stories that you have?
Yes. Well, there's typically one core, what I call signature story that every coach needs. And that signature story is once you have it, you can tell it again and again and again. The fundamentals of every story ever told, whether it's a movie you went to watch over the weekend or a book you're reading, always begins with a hero that
Yeah.
has a problem they don't know how to solve and they're looking for a guide. And so your story is less about like your background or how you got into this business or your childhood. It's not about that. The story that I would encourage your listeners to tell is really a narrative that invites your potential clients into a story with you, a story where they are the hero and you play the guide. The guide is more of a secondary character in this story, which is kind of a relief to most coaches.
Right.
You're not the central character in your story. Your clients are. You are the guide, which is the like the Yoda or the Mr. Miyagi. You are actually the strongest character in the story.
Right.
Um, so you're very, very important, but you're not the hero. And I think most coaches default to making themselves the hero of their own story. And
Right.
this is just like it's so normal, right? And this is what most websites are doing out there, most coaching websites. They're making themselves the hero of their own story. They're making their website all about them, and they're forgetting to really take the time to make their clients that central character of the story, taking the time to really connect with them. Like, just like if you meet somebody new for coffee, you would sit down and you'd really connect with them
Right.
before you started coaching them or telling them about how you could solve their problem. You would connect first. And that is such an essential part of telling a story. So you don't want to make yourself the hero of your own story. But the thing that happens a lot is a coach goes into business and they're like, okay, I need a website. I got to crank this out. I got to get on
Right.
Wix or Squarespace and I'm going to follow the templates that they give me. Okay,
Yeah.
they're in this section, they're telling me to introduce myself and talk about myself. And so you kind of follow the lead of the templates that are given to you. So it's nobody's fault. But this is why it's so common. We're like, it's my website. I should talk about myself. And yes, you should talk about yourself, but there's a time and a place for it. We really want to
Right.
first, the priority is really, really to make our heroes, our clients, that central character. So just to kind of give people a quick overview of the fundamentals of every good, compelling story begins with a hero that has a problem they don't know how to solve. If they could solve their problem on their own, they would. You know,
Yeah.
this is why you have a job because you know how to solve an important problem that your hero can't solve all by themselves.
Yeah.
They're out and about, they're asking their network, they're on the internet, they're looking for a guide who can help them solve this problem. But what happens so much is they come to your website and they're like, huh, she seems wonderful, like a very lovely person, but I'm just not feeling connected. Or for whatever gut reason I have, this person doesn't feel quite like the right fit. And so they bounce to another website and they continue their search. And they think it's because, you know, they just don't click with you for whatever reason. They don't feel like you're the right one for them. But the truth is, you probably are the right one for them. They're just not. You're not telling your story in a way that really
Has them connect and
builds the
that
trust.
nurturing and trust, and then like
Yes,
trust factor.
people want to work with people they feel connected to. They want to work with people that they trust. And so the fundamentals of story really prioritize that trust building and that connection and that resonance. And then you can step in as the guide. You can give them a very clear and simple plan. The
Right.
plan is an important part of the story because nobody wants to jump off a cliff blindly. No one wants to click on your call to action if they don't know where it's going to
Right.
lead them. So we want to give them a plan and show them what's this going to look like. And also, the plan is an important part of the story because it shows their brain like where the finish line is. They're like, okay, if I go through this plan, the finish line is not far off. And then they have
Right.
this internal thought, which is, I can do this. And when they have that internal thought, they're really inspired to click on that call to action. And everything that we do in your signature story is really in service of them clicking on the call to action. That's how we know your website's working. That's how we know your social media is working. People are clicking on the call to action. And then we pull them through the story and keep them engaged through what I call stakes. And stakes just mean success is to be had, but failure is also possible.
Right.
And stakes are really the reason we go to a movie, we sit down, and the movie turns on. We don't look at our phone for 90 minutes. We don't get up to go to the bathroom. We don't get up to get more popcorn because we need to know what's going to happen. And so
Yeah.
we use those same fundamentals of story in your website and in your marketing to keep people engaged in that level. And honestly, nothing has the power to capture our attention the way that story does. And that's half the battle as a coach, is just capturing people's attention, but also becoming memorable. Like, how are people gonna know you and what you do on such a clear and in such a clear and simple way that you're the one that comes first to their mind when they have the problem that you solve?
Yeah. Tell me when you're creating the flow of a story, let's just say for your About Me page, because I think from the
Yes.
About Me page, you can use it in so many other ways on social media. What is the flow of story? I mean, there has to be something, of course, of your own journey, but to what extent do you share that?
Yeah, I mean, your website is definitely not your resume.
Yeah.
It is really about the hero. And I'm glad you brought this up because I really believe the way that people are engaging with your website now are on your phone
Yeah.
mostly. They're typically on their phone. They come to your website, and this motion, if you're listening or if you're on video, you can see me. But if you're listening, I'm holding my phone and I'm doing this scrolling motion. This is very intuitive. It's very easy to scroll through a page. And in a perfect world, they don't have to navigate to secondary pages to gather the information they need in order to confidently take that next step
Right.
with you.
Right.
So, number one, your about page, I integrate that into the home page.
Yeah.
And so it's really seamless to scroll through a, maybe it might be a longer page, but it's much more effortless to move through that page and allow this story to unfold um, intentionally and sequentially as they move down the page. So your about me section, the way I do them anyway, there it's nuanced. It looks like an about you section, but it's really about you as it relates to your client.
As your,
So
as the guide.
as the guide. Yeah. You step in as the guide and you remind them like what's possible. Number one, who do they want to be? Like, I know you want to be how would people want to, how would your clients want people to describe them as? Like
Right.
a confident leader in your community or an incredibly, um, a parent that's like incredibly connected with their children. So we want to begin your about section with really who they want to become. And then we really just move into the story flow. So your about section in many ways is like a mini story within a larger story. And you repeat the flow And so you start with their aspirational identity, and then you move into like, the problem is, you can't you can't be that because of this problem.
Right.
And then you move into what you believe. And this is what I call a philosophical statement. What you believe is just plain wrong, or what you believe is true. I believe, you deserve a simple path to feeling your best. You deserve uh, the support that's needed in order to whatever it is, right? And then you move into, that's why I've made it my mission to solve this problem.
Answer the problem.
And then you can build some authority there, but it's briefly. You don't need to like brag or boast or list all of your accomplishments. You just need to show that you solve this problem. That's why I've made it my mission to help, clients like you solve this problem.
Right.
That's why for the past 15 years, I've worked with 350 clients solving this particular problem. And then in the about section, um, I always like to answer the question, how are you different from the rest? And whether you know it or not, you are different from the rest. Again,
Yeah.
I have yet to meet a coach that doesn't have their own unique imprint or their own unique kind of special sauce of how they solve this problem. Here's how I'm different from the rest. And then I do a few bullets of really what makes you unique. And then we call them to action.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love that. And where on the homepage do you have that integrated? Like kind of flow of problems, and then you get to kind of hi, this is me, meet me, or meet your coach.
Yeah, yeah.
Bring
So
it in.
when somebody lands on your page, you have about 5 seconds to communicate what you do, how it's going to make their life better, and what you want them to do next. So
Right.
I call that the hero section. We're just identifying who that hero is and letting their brain know, like, are they in the right place or not? That's what they want to know. Am I in the right place or not? If they are, if resonating with them, they're going to engage in your stories. So you're going to
Right.
start with the problem and the overarching problem that's going on for them. And then I like to follow that with a few bullets that get into the nuances of their struggle. And this really helps them feel seen, they feel heard, they feel not alone in their struggle, and they feel like, oh my gosh, she's in my head.
Yeah.
And when you
Yeah.
can really articulate their problem in their words, they automatically think you're the best one to solve it. So we want to, there's a lot of, um, there's a lot of layers that happen in that first problem section that are really, really essential to telling the story. And then the other thing that they're asking is, you know, I kind of joke that when someone comes to your website, they've got 3 questions. What's in it for me? What's in it for me? What's in it for me?
Yeah.
So after the problem section, they're nodding their head. Yep, this is where I am. This is just the way it is. It's never going to change. And then I like to follow that section with just showing them what's possible. Sometimes our clients get so stuck in their problem, they've forgotten what's possible for them. So
Yeah.
it's your job as the guide to really remind them of what's possible. And the way a lot of coaches get this wrong is they get excited about what they do and how they solve their problem, and they get right into
Yeah.
features of working with them rather than the end benefit of working with them. So a different way to frame this section is to say, what's their life going to look like after they've worked with you?
Yeah. Yeah.
What's possible for them? And at that point, they're resonating with us because we've articulated their problem. We've shown them very clearly. We've spoon fed them early what's in it for them.
Right.
Their brains fully engaged. And at that point in the story, they're like, okay, okay, this feels really good. I'm engaged. Who's behind all this? And that's when we move into the guide section where you can step in as the guide. Guides, true guides, don't need to brag or boast. You just need to show up with empathy. You have so much heart and so much empathy for your clients because you maybe have gone through a similar struggle. And so we really want to lead that guide section with just oodles of empathy and some authority and really helping them understand that you know how to solve this problem.
And when you're extracting that main signature core story to your social media, how many stories would you say that you need to rotate?
One.
One rotation
One,
story.
you have, no, I mean, I think everybody needs one story. When you've
Right.
taken the time to do the heavy lifting of crafting your signature story, anytime you need to write for social media, you go back to that story and you pick one thing in there. You might pick one problem. You might pick one part of the plan.
Yeah,
But you've basically got content forever. I wrote my signature story years ago. And anytime I need content, I just go back to my signature story and I
I
pick
love
one
that.
thing and I write about it. It really depends too on how much you want to post. You know,
Yeah.
I personally, I don't want to spend my time posting on social media. So I have crafted like 15 very strategic posts. If you go to my Instagram, there are 15 posts. I've turned my Instagram grid into a really powerful sales page.
Oh,
So
wow.
you can see on that page every component of story broken down into a different post. But when they all work together, it allows people to very quickly understand what I do, how I can help them, how my process works, and what I want them to do next. So I have taken the entire year off of Instagram posting because I know it's set up to sell for me. That
Wow.
being said, I do post in reels periodically based on like if I have something that I want to share, like a new podcast or
Right.
something that's going on. So the idea in my perspective, the idea is really again like how can you do less and how can you not have to do the things that you constantly feel like you should
Yeah.
be doing. And social media is a big one because it's very time consuming. It's not always very effective,
Right.
but yet, as a coach, we really just want to be doing the work that we're on the planet to do. We don't want to be a part time marketer. We don't want to feel like this constant homework is hanging over our head all the time that never ends.
Yeah, I love when you said earlier in this interview how you want to work smarter. It's like you want your website, you want your stories to really work for you. Would you
Yes.
say that um how vulnerable do you need to be in a story?
Mm. I mean, I'm a big fan of vulnerability.
So
But
the client identifies with you and really says, this person's in my head.
yeah, I don't think that that requires a lot of vulnerability. What it requires is you really knowing the nuances of what your clients are struggling with.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, there's a time and a place to say, listen, I struggled with this myself and I overcame it, and here's how I did it, and now I want to help you do the same
And this
thing.
is my mission.
Yeah,
Like
but you
really
don't,
taking like the frame, that frame of the about me story. If you do the hard work, you hire somebody like yourself, you're
yes.
really then getting long-term marketing strategy to attract
Forevermore.
forever.
Yeah, forevermore
Yeah.
in every area of your business on your social media. If you want to do social media, networking events in person, if you're speaking on a
Speaker.
podcast,
Yeah.
you just always go back to that story. It's the fundamental part of your business, and it's the most compelling way to help people understand how wonderful you are and what
Yeah.
you can do for them and how you're different from the rest. So yeah, it's really the ticket to freedom, in my opinion.
So if what are the places that you build visibility since you didn't do social media? I know the social media works like a sales page, but what are you seeing
Yes.
as some ways to really show up in social media these days?
Yeah, I mean, I set up my Instagram as a sales page, but I really think of your website as the center of your marketing universe. So
Yeah,
it's like the sun, and then there are planets that orbit around the sun, and there are a million ways to get visibility. Um, and a lot of coaches feel like they need to be doing everything and be everywhere.
yeah,
My philosophy is pick two things that you really enjoy. Do you want your own podcast, or do you don't, if you don't have time for that, do you enjoy podcast guesting? That's a really great way to meet new people and point people back to your website.
yeah,
Whatever you do, uh, it feels so much easier because you don't have to do this selling. You know your website's going to do that for you. So it's just you point everybody to the center of your marketing universe. So for my own business, I don't really want to spend my time posting. So I did some deeper work, got my Instagram dialed in, so I have a presence there. But where I really enjoy spending my time is having conversations with people. So I say pick two planets. You do not
yeah,
have to pick more than two planets. My two planets are podcast guesting and email marketing.
yeah.
Those are the two. I pay attention to my list. I pay attention to my people. I'm in touch with them regularly on my email list. So that's my one planet. And then the podcast guesting is my other planet.
I love that. What do you think? I would love to talk about this because I hear this all the time and I would love to hear your feedback. But a coach will say to me, well, I've been told I don't need a website,
Mm, yeah,
especially in the beginning of being a coach. Now, for me, I feel like I've never hired somebody without a website.
it's totally
Unless maybe they were a referral, and still I like to see a website.
a
What's your
hundred
take
percent.
on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people are kind of, I don't know, taking that position. Um, if you want to do a lot more work and you have endless amounts of free time and you like hustling, then don't have a website and do
Right.
all that heavy lifting
Or do
yourself.
fancy funnels. I mean, I think that's the thing when I hear somebody say, you don't need a website, I think you have to have very fancy funnels to be able to do all that communicating.
Yeah, and even then, I think if somebody is wanting or considering working with you, the first place they're going to go is your website. How many
Yeah,
times have you been on Instagram and you're like, oh, okay, I like what she's saying. I'm going to go check out her website.
yeah.
If the website falls flat or there is no website, you're in a mystery, right? You don't really know.
Well, I
You
know I saw a lot of coaches shift to stand store. And I would say, please don't do that because I don't feel like it nurtures enough. You're just leading somebody to an e-commerce product.
completely. You're kind of
Yeah.
going, here, buy this before you've taken the time to really allow them to get to know you. I mean, the beauty of a website is they get to spend time with you. They get to
Yeah.
be with you. And when you're not even there, right? The website is working 24/7 for you. It's the most powerful way to get clients if it's working for you. I feel like a lot of coaches have websites. They come to me and they're like, it's just sitting there like a bump on a log. It's like it's an online brochure or business card, but it's not a selling tool.
It's not
And
telling this profound story to get people in to say, I have to speak with this person.
totally. And I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, you've really never hired somebody if they don't have a website because it really tells you indirectly that they don't care enough to make an investment in their own business, and they don't care enough to like craft a clear and compelling story.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think if you want to thrive as a business, you have to have a website. If you want to have a fancy funnel, then add that to your website. You know, you can
Yeah.
really promote your lead magnet on your website and capture those emails and market to those people. But it kind of, again, that website is the center of your marketing universe. And at this point in time, there is no shortcut or workaround. You need to get the website working for you if you want to grow your business.
I love that. I love that you just said that. I was like, okay. Do you think in this conversation that we've had today that we missed anything on storytelling? I know storytelling is such a vast, but really creating a
Yeah.
story that sets you apart.
I don't think so. I mean, I think we've covered some really core fundamentals
Yeah.
about the importance of a website, the importance of positioning yourself as the guide and not the hero. If you just do that, your website's going to become much more effective and you're going to get to attract the right kinds of clients. I mean, the beauty of a well-told, compelling story is that it attracts those right fit clients, but it repels the wrong fit ones. So
Yep.
you don't have to be wasting your time on sales calls with people that aren't the right fit or people that don't have the budget or whatever it is. Um, that, you know, it's about, again, it just always comes back to how can we be most efficient with your time? How can we create a business that's profitable and enjoyable? And how can
Yeah.
you set yourself up with tools that will work for you so you don't have to be doing the heavy lifting all the time?
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to thank you for being here. Can you tell everyone where to find your Instagram, where to find you at your website?
Of course, yeah. The my website is the center of my marketing universe, so you can go there and like check it out. It's reddoorstories.com, reddoorstories.com. Everything about me, the work I do, how I help my clients can be found on my website. If you want to check out my Instagram and check out how like I'm leveraging Instagram to tell my story without posting all the time, you can find me on Instagram at Red Door Design with no S.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being here. Guys,
Ah,
make sure you follow this woman. She has a plethora of amazing information that I know will help. Kris and I were talking even before we were recording that so many coaches fall into the trap of needing, like thinking they need another qualification instead of really spending that time to work on your story and making that signature story profound. So you guys know what your work is now. All right, guys, it was great to be with you. Thanks, Kris.
thank you.
Bye, guys.